Heritage Foundation President Kay Coles-James also described today's school ruling as good news for people of all faiths, saying, by allowing religious institutions to decide for themselves who will teach their faith and how that faith will be taught, America preserves the fundamental right of religious freedom. Well, joining us now is Emily Gao, director of the Heritage Foundation's DeVos Center for Religion and Civil Society. Emily, let's just get right to it. How does today's decision on religious institutions preserve religious freedom for all faiths?
Well, I think today is a great victory for religious freedom, and there are many different organizations that filed amicus briefs in this case from different religious backgrounds, and they all should have the protection of the First Amendment to hire according to their religious beliefs, especially when it comes to the important role of people who will teach their faith to the next generation.
Significant victories on religious liberty today by a margin of 7-2. And so if anything, this should send a signal to the culture that we should all be protecting and valuing and cherishing religious liberty.
They want to scrub and brush out anything that competes with their narratives. And I think that means also modern political narratives. I mean, this is a political movement. This is not just some discussion about history. It's a discussion about how American society should be structured. It's about, is Western civilization inherently good or is it evil? Does it need to be toppled? And I think part of this kind of attack on history, the attack on statues, is part of their overall attempt to silence any and all opposition. I think this is really what it's about. They don't want there to be anybody who could possibly question their narratives about a whole wide range of topics.
The old strategy is let's not antagonize China. Let's try to find ways to cooperate. And all that really did was essentially give the Chinese license to lie, cheat, and steal, and do everything else. So we flipped that strategy on the head and says, no, rather than avoiding areas where we have conflicts with China, let's specifically target those so the Chinese see where their interests are bumping against ours, and let's force them to stop. The other thing that the administration was started on is this thing called linkage, which is, look, you help me out, I'll help you out. You give us a better deal, help us out with the North Koreans, we'll give you a better trade deal. The U.S. hasn't done that. Essentially, they kept everything in its own lane, whether it's technology or economics or national security, whatever, and said, look, we're not going to get tied in knots negotiating with you. Where we have a specific problem, we're going to take a specific action. I think that is really the key to moving this forward.
I think it's important to remember that this decision about whether or not schools should reopen is very much a local decision. It's one that should be made by local schools and educators, and as they talk with health officials about what's happening in terms of the pandemic in their area. I think as federal officials have talked about, though, they shouldn't try to use the CDC guidelines as reasons not to reopen. They're meant to be guidance that can be broadly applied. And it's fortunately, we have seen some states already begin to have in-person classes. So they've already moved beyond it in some states.
Congress needs to end this disincentive to employment. Right now, these unemployment benefits of $600 per week from the government on top of the states, that is a disincentive to people going back to work, because in many situations they're earning more off the job than on the job. You can't expect a full recovery so long as we're incentivizing people to stay off the job. So we are growing and booming and recovering despite some of these well-intentioned but misguided government programs.